Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that these last few years we've had a ridiculous amount of scam events that have then ended up becoming a meme all over the internet because of how bad these events were. So I thought for this video we'd go through a bunch of them, talk about what the events were, why they were so bad, and kind of what happened to the people in the event sort of afterwards. So obviously the first one, and by far the most infamous, and the one that's obviously kind of inspiring this video in the first place, we have to go back to Glasgow in 2024. So that was the Willy's Chocolate Experience, which was an unlicensed event based off Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now, this event was advertised with AI, which for a start is a very, very bad sign. With its posters featuring the most not words ever, such as catgatting, Karchi tons, exastratory lollipops, and a paradise of sweet teats. That's never not going to amuse me. But anyway, so yeah, this was, this event was, as I said, held in, Glasgow, and yeah, it was, shall we say, it did not go well. So it was held in like this warehouse, and the warehouse was like the most empty, nothing warehouse you have ever seen in your life. It's so funny. So they technically had some decorations, the most minimal, sparse decorations you have ever seen in your life, but they technically had some, I guess. I don't think, actually, the decorations that they did have were that bad, because they had, like, a bunch of these giant suites and, like, this big bridge and stuff, and I think the decorations they actually did have did kind of look cool. They just needed, like, 10 times the amount of them, and then I don't think the event, honestly, would have been that bad. But this event was put on by this House of Illuminati, and the sort of head of this company was kind of known for doing a bunch of pretty terrible, scammy stuff. He's also apparently written, and I use written in quotation marks, a bunch of AI-generated books. That's about sums up it. I'm not going to say the guy that did this event's name, principally because I can't pronounce it correctly, so I'm just not going to try to. But anyway, so a bunch of people went to this event. I do think the tickets for this event were actually the cheapest of all of the ones that I'm going to talk about in this video, because the tickets were only £35, which is still, you know, a lot to lose, but compared to what we're going to get onto later in this video, it's actually not that bad. But anyway, so yeah, they basically just had this sparsely decorated warehouse, with pretty much nothing in it. And then you have the two big viral things. So firstly, they had this woman dressed up as an Oompa Loompa, and then there's this picture, which I'll put on screen now, which basically makes her look like a character in Breaking Bad. It's so funny. Like, it is so funny, because she had to hand out a single jelly bean and a quarter cup of lemonade, because for an event themed around sweets, that was all the sweets. that was it. There was no chocolate at this event. It was just one jelly bean and a quarter cup of lemonade. That is all the sweets you could get. There is, because I've seen pictures of this, there is like a whole eating area, like at this event, with like one of them, you know, open like counter things. But as far as I can tell, there was never any food actually available at this event. So they had like a whole dining area with like a dining hatch and everything for nothing. So anyway, then the other big memed thing about this is the unknown. So basically, this event, because obviously it was like an unlicensed parody thing of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it couldn't use the actual characters from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so instead they came up with this character called the Unknown, who is an evil chocolate maker that lives in the walls. I'm not making that up. That is the official description of what this thing is. It is an evil chocolate maker that lives in the walls. So that thing just terrorized a bunch of children. Which, I mean, is funny. Like, in retrospect, it's obviously not funny for the families that children got terrorized by it, but it is kind of funny. So anyway, so surprisingly enough, because this event was such a absolute disaster, the police were then called to this event. As far as I am aware, the main guy who ran this event, I don't think he actually got arrested, or at least if he did, I think he kind of was let out again. But basically, the police were called, the whole event was shut down, because I think this event was supposed to be a 2-day event, and it basically got, like, shut down and ended a few hours into day one. Obviously, there were some people that, like, travelled, so obviously, you know, they lost far more than £35. But anyway, so the police were called, this whole company was shut down, the main guy that ran this was, you know, just a complete, you know, his reputation was just completely and utterly in the mud. Well, I mean, that's probably an understatement, to be fair. So some refunds were, I believe, issued, though I can't, because I've just been scouring the internet for a while to see if people did actually receive their refunds. And I can't actually find anything detailing whether they did definitely receive the refunds or not. So I can't guaranteedly say that they did, but I think there was definitely some intention to give refunds, plus obviously with the police being involved. I assume if refunds weren't given, all the people could have just sued anyway. So anyway, so yeah, that was that event. So then the same year, I actually thought this happened in 2025, but no, this also happened in 2024. We then had the Detroit Bridgerton experience. So as I said, this took place in Detroit in Michigan on September the 22nd, 2024. So this was themed around the Netflix show Bridgerton, and was, again, not official. Like, this was not officially licensed from Netflix or anything. This was just their own, like, legally distinct thing. But they still used the word Bridgerton in it. Because at least in the case of the event in Glasgow, they called it Willy's Chocolate Experience. Like, they didn't use Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in the name. Whereas this was explicitly called the Bridgerton Ball Experience. Like, with the word and the same logo and everything. So this event was put on by Uncle and Me LLC, which might be one of the worst names for a company ever, because what is this company name? I mean, this is actually a running theme with all of these scam events, is the company name is just the most what the hell name for a company is this name for a company ever. So I guess that is the running theme, I suppose. But anyway, so this event, once again, took place in a massive building, a far too massive a building. So this was, I believe, over 3 floors, this event. So the event in Glasgow was only over 1 singular floor. This event was over 3. And again, it promised this big ballroom dancing and an evening of sophistication, grace, and historical charm. To quote from the thing, there's going to be a full live orchestra, a costume competition to win $2,000, etc. This event, I don't think it was technically advertised with AI, but it was still advertised with the most sus advertising you have ever seen in your life. The tickets for this event were much, much more expensive. I found it a minute ago, I can't find it again, but anyway, the tickets, I believe, were like several £100 for the most expensive, all-inclusive, super fancy ticket. I think it was like, I know, $200. I said I can't find the exact number again, but it was certainly vastly more expensive than the other one anyway. So anyway, this event started, and lo and behold, who would have thought the building was once again virtually empty with next to no decorations. Again, the few decorations they did have, like, were fine, I guess. Like, they were passable, but, you know, the rest of it really was not great at all. So this event did have food. It did have food. They had chicken wings and tomato ketchup. The most Bridgerton period meal y'all have ever seen. Also, apparently the food was raw. Because a bunch of people got food poisoning. Which is kind of not good at all. So to be fair, the people at the Wonka thing were probably better off not having food. Because this one just gave a load of people food poisoning. So as I said, this event was over 3 floors. So the bottom floor was basically like the... I mean, again, I'm obviously putting up pictures, but the bottom floor was basically like the entrance area. So that kind of had like the photo ops, the furniture, all of that stuff. Then I believe the second floor was then the live orchestra, which consisted of a single violinist. So yeah, no, they literally just had a single violinist. That was it of the orchestra. They also had like a disco area for some reason that played such period songs as Move Like Jagger by Maroon 5. Yeah, anyway, so that's very, very funny. So then on the third floor, they then had, like, I kind of have to be careful how I describe this because of, like, internet censorship. They had an adult dancer is the best way I can phrase it, I guess. So yeah, they had an adult dancer because of course they did. Yeah, that was sort of in their ballroom area. So as I also mentioned earlier, there was this competition where the prize was $2,000. This competition never happened. Nobody ever won $2,000. There was no $2,000. The real $2,000 was the friends we made along the way. So yeah, obviously a load of people complained all over the internet. As far as I'm aware, the police were not called to this one. There was a lot of obviously complaints and stuff, but I don't think there was an actual like police being called. So the main person in charge of this, Chelsea Beard, then came out with like a load of, fluffy statements on Instagram and stuff, basically yapping nonsense. So then the company, once again, shut down. Because, who humanly would have guessed? I can't, again, find anything about there being refunds for this event. I know with the Glasgow one, I think there was at least like a statement saying that refunds would be offered. And I said obviously the police were involved with that event. With this one though, I cannot see anything anywhere that said that anybody ever received refunds for this event. I mean, again, I assume they did on account of like, otherwise they can just sue the company. Well, I suppose they can't sue the company because the company shut down, but sue somebody. Certainly sue the guy in charge of the company. So I guess I'll like assume they did get refunds in the end. But like if you have attended this event or the Glasgow one, let me know in the comments below if you actually did receive a refund. So yeah, that was obviously a disaster. But now on to the final event, which is potentially the worst of all of these events. Yes, that is possible. So as I said with these previous 2 events, the Willy Wonka one and the Bridgerton one, they were not official. They were not officially licensed. They were not official events. However, literally a couple of weeks ago, as of making this video, Mattel, which is the company that owns Barbie, like the actual company Mattel, teamed up with this other company called Mischief Management, which should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about the company, to launch this thing called Barbie Dream Fest, which was held in Florida. So this was, again, supposed to be this big, fancy Barbie experience, where the most expensive tickets available cost $450. Also, ignore my cat in the background. Sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, the tickets cost $450 at the most expensive ticket. I think the cheapest was $75, which is, still ridiculous. So this was supposed to be, this massive interactive thing with all of these stalls and yada, 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 yada. And once again, it was in an empty warehouse with next to no decoration. Again, who could have seen this coming? Absolutely nobody. So it basically had a bunch of near empty photo booths. Oh yeah, the really funny thing. So it was advertised to have a life-size Barbie dream house that you could go in and walk around. It was just a cardboard cutout. It was just a giant cardboard cutout. You couldn't go in it. You couldn't go around it. It was just a giant cardboard cutout, which is very funny. Also, a load of the vendors didn't turn up, from what I hear, and a few that did, because there was this one company that sold sunglasses, and they basically got completely scammed because the event organizers just stole all of their stock, so they just couldn't sell anything. And just had to leave again. So that was just an absolute disaster. This event was also shown to have a roller disco. The roller disco was just a square, just a random square, boarded off, for people to go around, which again is just ridiculous. So yeah, it did also have a bunch of guest stars that were supposed to be here, such as Serena Williams, the tennis player Serena Williams. So that was the one good thing about this event. From what I gather, the guest speakers did actually turn up and do their panels. Serena Williams was there and did do her panel. So I guess, if you're just a really big fan of Serena Williams, I guess you got something out of the event. But otherwise, this was just a ginormous sham. Because obviously this is then looking really bad on Mattel. This did, definitively have refunds issued. Mattel came out with a big statement saying we are issuing refunds. Initially, they were only going to refund the people that bought, the really expensive tickets. And then obviously a load of people complained enough that, as far as I'm aware, they are now blanketly refunding everybody. But again, obviously the people that traveled here, because this was by far the biggest event of, any that we've talked about in the terms of marketing. So there were people that traveled, from halfway across the globe to go to this event. So they're still out of pocket by, several $1,000s, even if they get the refund. So yeah, these were some absolutely disastrous events. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these events and if you attended any of these events. And also, if I should do a part 2 to this video, because there's still a ton of other scam events that happened in the last 3 years that we have not covered in this video. So if you want a part 2, let me know on that too.